Jack Ryan Season 3 is here, and I know you are so excited. Let's take a look at 20 things you might have missed in Season 3 of Jack Ryan. I'm Joey C. Let's go! Did you know that Tom Clancy's professor turned analysis, turned super spy, turned president is a product of the Cold War? Jack Ryan first appeared in 1984's Hunt for Red October, where his sharp analytical skills saw him move from analyst to assistant subjacker.
Jack boy.
Geopolitics now are very different than they were in the Cold War 80s. So the series is meant to be ripped from the headlines, but they've done some judicious ripping from the pages of the Jack Ryan novels as well. Season 1 echoed Patriots games. Season 2 saw the super spy in super dangerous situations like in Clear and Present Danger. Instead of drugs and the unseating of a US president, it's tantalum and the balance of power in Venezuela. In Season 3, we get It's Sum of All Fears peanut butter in the Hunt for Red October's chocolate. Or is it Red October's peanut butter in Sum of All Fears chocolate? And if you're thinking to yourself, boy, I haven't read or seen any of these, well, I'm gonna explain it. The Sum of All Fears starts in a flashback to 1973 and the Yom Kippur War, where it turns out that Israel planned a nuclear attack complete with a nuclear weapon and everything. Although I suppose you can't have a nuclear attack without a nuclear weapon, so that was kind of a dumb thing to say, and I apologize. While the nuking is called off, the plane goes down in Golan Heights or Syria, depending on if you watched it or read it. Presumed lost forever was indeed not lost forever. It gets in the wrong hands, and those hands plan to use the bomb to convince Russia and the United States to crank their Cold War to hot and hope to take over in the chaos. While Season 3 adds a third candidate to this nuclear hot potato game, we see a disgruntled Russian soldier involved in a 7-step plan to destabilize America, but was stopped in his tracks during the thawing of the Cold War, and thank goodness that it was thawed. And he was very clearly against the thawing. I mean, obviously, the man's whole plan involved taking over during this time. In the movie adaptation of A Sum of All Fears, America runs an exercise based on a scenario where the Russian president is overthrown in a coup, or rogue generals launch a nuclear attack.
Sir, this bomb was not Nemirov. I know this guy.
So you bet your sweet bippy that Season 3 features rogue agents and military operatives overthrowing the government and launching a nuclear attack. Turns out this version of the Ryan-verse never did that exercise, because not even Jack Ryan has this one worked out. Question, are you really a super spy if your own agency hasn't turned against you? Turning allies into enemies and enemies into frenemies? It's a very confusing theme in super spy movies, but it adds to the drama and we all love it. TV's Jack Ryan joins a very elite group of men. James Bond, Ethan Hunt, and Jason Bourne. All of these men all face the raw end of the agency that they all worked for. This is a new element for the story. Ryan becomes subject to a red notice. Interpol's version of a classic, book 'em, Dano.
Book 'em, Dano.
Also an art heist movie featuring Deadpool, Wonder Woman, and Black Adam. I mean, Ryan Reynolds, Gal Gadot, and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. They are also burned, like Burn Notice on the USA Network. However, in Sum of All Fears, Ryan does find himself a bit on the outs with the agency. In that story, an interagency rival arranges for Ryan to be accused of an affair, which eventually leads to him stepping down from the CIA. In the novel, that internal foe is White House Foreign Affairs Advisor Elizabeth Elliott. Whew, that's a mouthful. In Season 3, he ends up running afoul, temporarily at least, against the chief of station in Rome, Elizabeth Wright. I know, isn't it just wacky? Wright initially moves Ryan from asset to liability, hoping to use him as the fall guy for the untimely death of the Russian Prime Minister. Talk about workplace drama, am I right? Good lord. Jack Ryan doesn't come in when asked on a good day. I mean, he's already in trouble. What's more trouble gonna do? Unlike Elliot, however, Wright does not offer increasingly bad advice while having an affair of her own with the widower president. For Season 3, the bad decisions are made by Wright's boss.
I want Jack Ryan in custody immediately.
While he doesn't end the series sedated, he does have to update his resume when it's discovered that he was chasing the only man who had any idea what was going on.
Jesus Christ.
There was, ever so briefly, a third Elizabeth. Or to be more accurate, a different second Elizabeth. Boy, I'm confused. Marianne Jean Baptiste, whose turn in Secret and Lies, earned her an Oscar nomination. Had begun filming season 3, but citing creative differences, Jean-Baptiste exited the show, with Get Out's Betty Gabriel stepping in, which included reshooting Elizabeth's scenes already shot. With season 3 delayed by 2020s, it was ultimately a minor hiccup. Oh, good lord, it's like a bomb inside of me. Speaking of bombs, one of the most dramatic elements of A Sum of All Fears is when he modified a nuclear bomb hidden in a vending machine to explode during an NFL game. The only saving grace was the part of a nuclear bomb that was nuclear was somewhat of a dud, which ultimately made Baltimore livable. While Detective Buck Moreland, the character James Greer actor Wendell Pierce played on The Wire, would probably be cool with it. At the very least, we know what he would say, but we can't say it on this family-friendly video. In season 3, they made the bomb look like it's an American nuclear device, and a conspirator hopes to up the boom by running his detonator into a convoy of explosives in the Czech Republic. After some signature Jack Ryan shenanigans of convincing commanding officers to let him do bonkers stuff and then entering and exiting vehicles like he was running an extreme sports YouTube channel, the conspirator ends up slamming into a parked truck in a tunnel, limiting the damage. Unless that tunnel was the only way for you to get to work, then the damage was massive. And also at that point, if a bomb went off in your city, you should just stay home from work anyways. Why didn't the the truck with the M and the V's, man, I'm not a soldier here. Why didn't the truck stop in the first place instead of making the two soldiers hoof it out, only to get picked up by Ryan driving back in? Feels like Ryan would be the one who shoots only in the last 5 seconds of the shot clock. I can't get over the name Humvee. What does it even mean? Oh my god, Hummer vehicle. When the going gets tough, it's best to turn to some of your tough friends, even if they don't even tell you what their real name is, which I think is just hysterical. We last saw Mike November and his operatives helping effect regime change in Venezuela as a CIA lifer, except that he actually has gone the private route. He still works with the CIA, but now he gets to negotiate a price and is free to service other clients. Though he again is predominant throughout the season, with him and Ryan forming a bit of a bond. But he's still a man of mystery, and the best demonstration of that lies in the name.
November.
People who are familiar with the NATO phonetic alphabet, or just have a name that's really hard to spell, are way ahead of us on this one. Mike and November are phonetic names for M and N. A spy giving you his name as part of the NATO phonetic alphabet is like giving a website with your Hotmail address. It's basically like saying, I really don't want to hear from you ever again.
Yeah, turn up the heat.
Mike November isn't the only callback character to help out Jack Ryan in his time of need. After Greer tells him to shelter in paradise, he's sent to a Turkish man in Greece who might be able to stow him away. That man, it turns out, is season 1's Tony. Tony comes into Jack Ryan's life when he's still trying to live that spy life without compromising any moral or ethical lines. Tony, being shady for hire, dances around both, causing a bit of tension between the two. Tony is a good-natured fella, no harm, no foul, so he does Jack Ryan a solid and hides him from the authorities, hiding him from both the CIA and the local police. In the episode Sources and Methods, Ryan tells Greer that he can be an ethical spy, and Greer tells him, quote, I used to think that too. As Greer sits in the car staking out Tony's place, Elizabeth tells Greer that they can't just let Ryan go half-cocked every time he gets a notion. Greer once again responds with, quote, I used to think that too.
I used to think that.
This Sum of Fears is cool and all, but there is some mention for a Red October and the hunt for it. Well, the super advanced, nearly undetectable submarine has a crucial part in season 3 of, quote, not appearing in this show. That doesn't mean that there isn't some allusion to everyone's favorite movie about a defecting Russian sub-commander with a thick Scottish accent. Perhaps the biggest allusion lies in how Jack Ryan gets aboard a naval vessel that's about to fall prey to an elaborate final-ditch effort to draw the US and Russian soldiers into a shooting war. Given that it's a tense moment, the captain of the ship denies Ryan's request to come aboard. So, the people in Ryan's helicopter pushes him out of the helicopter, so the ship is forced to pick him up. In the hunt for Red October, it's similarly important that Ryan finds his way on the submarine, but rough weather and high tensions end with the helicopter crew aborting the drop-off. But instead of being reeled back up, Ryan lets his harness go. and hits the super cold water where he has 4 minutes to get on the submarine, or hope he has some super soldier serum in him so he can be thawed out in like 70 years or so he could, save the world or something. Getting on the ship, whether it's a surface dweller or it dives, turns out to be the easy part. In both Hunt for Red October and Season 3, Ryan has to convince the captain that all is not what it seems.
It has nothing to do with Russia at all.
In Hunt for Red October, it's a captain trying to commit grand theft submarine. For Season 3, a lot more pieces are added. Now the guy who ran the program that has become the sinister plot has found his way on the rogue ship to tell everyone they weren't supposed to do it, and Greer is back in the former USSR, hipping their leadership that there's a coup underway. For once, Ryan can't implore his way out of trouble. That task falls to former disinformation officer Luca, who manages to convince the crew of the ship that the captain is writing his own orders to set the world on fire. Part of the way Ryan convinces the captain of the Dallas to consider that the Red October is making a break for it, and not war, is Ryan is stressing how thoroughly he studied the actions of the captain. Then he rolls the dice on a coin flip prediction, over which the way the Red October will break in its quote, crazy Ivan move, to see if there's a submarine hiding in the October's wash. Ryan flips that in Season 3, saying the captain of the other ship has studied the American captain so well that he knows to the moment how he will react so he can create a proper reaction. Although this time the captain pops that balloon pretty quickly by pointing out that he has dozens of the same kind of files in his office. And that practice is just on this side of standard operating procedures. The first episode contains a tribute to a man with an impossibly cool name, Mace Nuefeld. Who is Mace Nuefeld? Well, he's a rather prolific Hollywood producer who ushered Omen and Omen 2 into the world, as well as The Frisco Kid and The Aviator. Also Stone Cold, an attempt to turn football player Brian Bosworth into an action hero, and Dolph Lundgren's Punisher. So, they weren't all bangers. But he did have 5 bangers on his hand adapting Tom Clancy's Ryanverse, and helping popularize the Jack Ryan character, starting with The Hunt for Red October, with Alec Baldwin as the analysis turned action hero. Harrison Ford would take over as Ryan in Patriot Games, and Clear and Present Danger, the loose inspirations for Seasons 1 and 2. Ben Affleck took on The Sum of All Fears, and Chris Pine had the honors for Shadow Recruit. Neufeld served as the executive producer of the Jack Ryan series before he passed in January of 2022. For those keeping track, counting Jim Halpert, there are 5 actors who have taken on the mantle of Jack Ryan. But that's not particularly unheard of, especially in spy movies. I mean, look at James Bond, for instance. There have been 7 actors who have played James Bond. Who's your favorite James Bond? Mine is Pierce Brosnan. Daniel Craig is a close second, but that's just my generation. What about you? But you never forget your first. Alec Baldwin also has the distinction of appearing in at least one project with all the other actors to portray the world's least boring economics professor. Just to make the coincidental connections flowing until they reach their goofy end, there's a 2-degree separation between Krasinski and fellow Jack Ryan, Chris Pine. Chris Pine's father is Robert Pine, best known to your weird Gen X uncle as the guy from the late 70s to early 80s show Chips, where highway patrol motorcycle officers solve crimes, and where Eric Estrada is Italian for some reason. Millennials might know him better as Gerald Halpert, Jim Halpert's dad on The Office, which of course is the show that introduced the world to John Krasinski. Part of the drama in Season 1 is the very cute romance between Jack Ryan and Cathy Mueller. Unlike Jim and Pam in Season 1 of The Office, this isn't much of a will they, won't they. Cathy Mueller becomes Cathy Mueller Ryan in the franchise. But over the course of Season 1, she tells Jack the life of secrets isn't gonna work for her when she finds out Ryan is living the ultimate pickup line. That he's a spy in the CIA, but also that it's not the draw posers they think it might be. She apparently has stuck to her word because we haven't seen or heard from her since, and Ryan has even been shown to have moved on. Cathy Mueller is set to return in Season 4. Which, yes, there will be a Season 4, and Netflix renewed it for a 4th season, and potentially it could be the last. And they even started filming it in all the way back of February of 2022. After the massive delay between Season 2 and 3, it seems like they're making up for lost time. It's gonna take a hot minute though. Shooting across the world will take a massive toll on people and gear. There's been no release date set. Season 3 brought with it a bit of its own personal changes in front of and behind the scenes. Carlton Cuse and Graham Rowland had created the series ahead of a bidding war amongst the networks. Q served as the showrunner for the first 2 seasons before stepping down. Initially, his shoes were being filled by Prison Break creator Paul Scheuring, but shortly into that tenure, he asked to be let out of his contract because he didn't feel like it was a good fit, and he wanted to go back to grad school. Now, Star Trek Discovery's showrunner, Von Wilmot, has taken the reins for Season 3. These days, it's fairly safe to assume that any location you see in a big budget project, and assume it's Pinewood, is in Atlanta, or Trilith, as it's now called, which is not as good a name. But spy thrillers are location-based movies. It's not just South America and Eastern Europe, though. Krasinski has said during press interviews that they were allowed to film in the actual Langley headquarters, including areas that have never been filmed before. If finding out that the 4th season will be the last is giving you premature separation anxiety, rest at ease. We are in the age of the franchise and the spin-off. In this case, the spin-off would revolve around Ding Chavez, to be portrayed by Michael Pena. Ding would join James Greer, Jack Ryan, and Cathy Mueller as a character from the franchise appearing in the series, with their name and at least resembling their role. Ding serves largely as the pointy end of a stick when it calls for stealth and lethality, so the spin-off promises even more action. In the book, Jack Ryan becomes president. Will Jack Ryan become president in Season 4? Probably not. What did you think of Season 3? What was your favorite entry? Let us know in the comments below, and as always everybody, thanks for watching.